Everybody's joining us. Hello, everybody. Hi, Matt. Matt, how are you doing?
Hey, hi, Danielle. Good to see
No,
you.
no prizes for guessing where you are today.
Yes, I'm actually out by the harbour, so
Uh-huh.
I've broken the social distancing rules and I've just got a nice table set up out in front of the harbour. It's beautiful. No one's out there. It's very quiet. Beautiful.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It is a beautiful day in Sydney today. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Hi from Melbourne. Is it Hira? Hi.
Yes, yes. So we've got okay, and we've hit the cap already. Okay, so we're already full. This session is already full. So people who miss out are going to
Oh,
head over
Toronto,
to
Adelaide.
live stream to YouTube. And so just a couple of things before we get started. Okay, we've got people joining us. We've got a chat. Fantastic. We've got people from all over the world: Saudi Arabia, Adelaide, Toronto, India, New Zealand, Melbourne, all over the place. Fantastic. Oh, so lovely to see people from all over the world. It must be okay. And the
Paul
UK,
made
I
it.
think.
Well done, Paul.
Yeah, yeah, he's made it in the middle of the night. Wow, Auckland, Northern New South Wales, Brisbane. Wow. Okay. Netherlands. Gosh. Hey, Tony. Nice to see you here. Uh, just a couple of things before we get started. There are two ways of contacting us. This is a meetup, so we'd like to encourage as much participation as possible. And that is the reason why we've limited this to 100 participants, because otherwise it just gets too crazy. We would love to hear from you. I can see lots of people in the chat. Just make sure that when you use the chat, make sure that it is to all panelists and attendees, or to everyone. It tends to default to particular people or to all panelists. So just make sure that everyone can see your chat. If you have questions though, we may not see it if it's in the chat. So I would recommend that you use the Q&A. So depending on how you've come in, there should be a panel and you can see the Q&A there. So if you have any particular questions for Matt, if you could ask those questions there, and we are going to try to allow enough time at the end. This is a lunchtime webinar, so we are going to try and keep you within an hour. So we'll see how we go with that. Mighty Melbourne, nice to see you there. Fantastic. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Matt. I've known Matt for many years and I have learnt so much from him. I have actually got a couple of his fantastic books right here. So love these books. Matt is an Excel MVP. He is a career expert in Power BI training. He has got more than 30 years experience in using data to deliver business value. He's a Microsoft MVP that specializes in Power BI, Power Pivot, and Power Query. He brings his business and IT experience to the table to get fast and effective results and to help you with general business data solving. So what he's going to take us through today is how to build a P&L using Power BI and DAX. So I'm really looking forward to that. This is a group of financial modelers. So building P&Ls are our bread and butter. And generally we just do that in ordinary Excel. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how Matt is going to show us how to do that in Power BI. So I will pass over to you, Matt.
Great. Thanks very much, Danielle. And just a shout out to Patrick. So Patrick just sent me a chat message to say he's also, same as Paul, got up at 3 a.m. in the morning in the UK to join the
Oh,
call.
well done.
Patrick's actually attending one of my online training courses. So good to see you there, Patrick. Okay, so yeah, thanks, Danielle. I'm actually a Power BI MVP. I'm not an Excel MVP. There was a
Oh,
day that I
sorry.
want. That's
Sorry, I
okay.
thought it
That's
was same.
no.
Yeah.
It's different. And you know, I'm an Excel guy, but I've just made the move. I'm just a Power BI guy now, and so yeah, my background. I worked at Coca-Cola for 25 years and had a great career, lots of opportunity to do stuff. But I always worked with data. I mean, that's the key defining thing that sort of joined my career and placed me where I am today. So I've been doing this for about 6 years. I was thinking I'd be an Excel business guy when I first started out myself, but Power Pivot came along, Power
Yeah, that
Query
was
came
around that
along.
time, wasn't it, when I first met
Yeah,
you, that all of
exactly.
that stuff was so new and it was
Yeah.
just a really good
And,
space for
you
you.
know, they say timing's everything, right? And
Mm.
so I just happened to be sort of 12 or 18 months in, and then Power BI came along and I was just ready in the right place at the right time.
Mm.
So yeah, so that's me. But anyway, you haven't come to hear about that. We've come to talk about P&L. So I just want to set the scene. This is not going to be a PowerPoint fest. It's going to be a Power BI demo. I have prepared my report. So I'm just basically going to step you through what I've built and try and explain what I've built. But before we do that, I just want to set the scenes. And I talk about self-service business intelligence as having these 4 natural stages. And I like to use this as a framework in all of our presentations. And so the first stage of a self-service business intelligence project, and that could be a P&L, is data acquisition. So your data is living somewhere, and chances are that somewhere is not Power BI. It's more likely to be a CSV or an Excel file or a SQL Server database, or increasingly, all of these things, right? And so your job is to get the data into the Power BI database before you can actually go to the next stage. So data acquisition is the first phase, and that's using Power Query as the product. Once you have the data in the database, you're still not ready to be able to do the analytics and reporting that you need to do. There's a very important step which is called data modeling, and that's where you take the raw data that's sitting in this database, and you have to enhance it, prepare it, write formulas. You need to basically continuously develop the data so that you can use it for the purpose at hand. And there's only a limit to what you can do without doing data modeling. Then after those 2 steps are done, then you can start to build your visualization, right? And so it could be a map, or it could be an interactive P&L, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And then lastly, you set about sharing that, the report that you've built with people, typically through powerbi.com. You can also use Analyze in Excel and various other techniques as well. So that's pretty much the 4-stage process that we go through. So today we're talking about data modeling. So we're not spending any time talking about the other 3 things. We will look at visualization to an extent. And when you build these reports, you tend to move back and forwards, right? So you start at the beginning, you get some data, you prepare it, you build a visual, then you realize you have to go back and do more data preparation, then more visualization. And so you jump back and forth through these phases in a typical project, but ultimately the data flows from left to right. Okay, so for the rest of this session, I'm going to show you how I built this P&L. Now, I have a declaration here. I'm not an accountant. And so I'm happy to take criticism about the quality of my P&Ls. But I think this is what a P&L should look like. And but the principles that I'm going to teach you are the same. Whether I've got it exactly right or whether you have a slightly different version, really that's circumstantial. But the principles that I'm going to show you about how to use the DAX language in Power BI to build a P&L similar to the one that I have on the screen. Now, there's a lot to do in DAX to make this work. And so I'm not actually going to build anything today. I'm going to step you through the process that I went through to build it. So I'm going to start at the beginning, and I'm going to show you what I did to load the data. And I literally did this, it's what, Wednesday today. I literally did this on Monday afternoon, the preparation. But what I did is I saved each of the stages so that I could show you what I did to advance from the raw data through to this P&L that I've got here. Now, I also just want to call out that this is not a training session, right? So you're not going to get to the end of this session and then by 4 o'clock this afternoon, you're going to have built your own P&L using Power BI. That's just not realistic. I start simply. The DAX is very simple to start with, and it gets very complex towards the end. And so, so the video, Daniel's going to share the video and it'll be making available on YouTube. So I suggest that you focus on what I'm talking about and listen to my explanations here. And then if you want to learn to do it yourself, come back and have a look at the YouTube video again later and step through and try and reproduce the steps yourself. So it may take some iteration to do that. But I'm not trying to do a training course so that you can do this this afternoon. So just please keep that in mind. The main thing is that you know that you can do it. Okay, if I can convince you that this can be done, then you can have, if you're so inclined, you can then go and pursue ways to do this yourself down the track, either with help from someone like me or by just watching the videos as we go through. So that's pretty much it with the slides. I'm not planning on doing much more than a final Q&A slide. So, so let's get started. Now, you actually can't do anything in Power BI unless you have some data. And so I've got some test data. This is sort of a modified AdventureWorks database. For those of you that don't know, AdventureWorks is a fictitious company that sells bicycles. So if you walk into the shop, you can buy a bike and a helmet and a water bottle. Those transactions get stored into the transactional database. And from a finance perspective, those transactions get stored into a general ledger, all right? So let's assume that this is the general ledger. I've actually got all this data in an Excel spreadsheet. It doesn't matter what the source is. This is just my test data. In your case, the chart of accounts might come from some financial system. Your calendar table might come from somewhere else. It could be an Excel spreadsheet. All of these data tables. But these are typically the types of data that you will be loading when you need to build a P&L. Probably the two most important ones are the GL, the income statement, if you like. So this has got revenue and expense items in this table here, and the chart of accounts. The other thing that I do want to emphasize is that your chart has to be in good shape. If you want to do this in Power BI, you need to have a good chart of accounts that has good account numbering systems that starts from 100 to 300 for revenue and 400 to 600 for expenses, or whatever your system is. The DAX is complex, but it's doable as long as you follow the rules of the chart of accounts. As soon as you start having exceptions where you say, yeah, well, from 0 to 100 is an expense, except if it's 97, and then that's an exception because we couldn't go back and fix the chart of accounts, then you can definitely get yourself in trouble. So just be aware of that.
So do you then try to fix that if there's any exceptions? You try to
fix it in your chart. Fix it in your chart of accounts, and then everything else becomes easy. I mean, at the end of the day, Power BI is a reporting tool. It's designed to report on the facts. And in an Excel world, you can override any individual number that you're not happy with. You just change the formula, right? And in a way that's been a crux. It's prevented a lot of companies investing in keeping their chart of accounts nice and healthy. And if you try and do this in Power BI and DAX, you'll definitely get, I'm not saying it can't be done, it will just definitely be a lot harder if you don't have a good chart of accounts. Okay, so let's have a look. I've loaded the data up here. This is not going to be DAX 101, but I will sort of talk briefly about what I've done. So I've got my general ledger here. So these are all my transactions, and these are my tables. So I've got a few tables here, departments, division, my calendar. All of these relationships join my general ledger through to the relevant table. And so in my general ledger, I have the account key, so the account number, and that's joined up to the account key in the chart of accounts. And so if I jump here to the data view, so here's my general ledger. So this is the date of the transaction, the department, and here's the account key. So this transaction is 2102, and it was account key 52. So if I want to know what is that account, I have to jump over to the chart of accounts, and I have to find 52. Here it is, intercompany sales. It's a revenue item, and so on. So this is the setup, and also don't underestimate. There's a bit of work to be done to make sure that this is clean and exactly fit for purpose. So the main thing to note is that this account key is unique. So when I'm in the chart of accounts, the account key must be unique in order to be able to join the chart of accounts through to the, sorry, this one here, the chart of accounts through to the general ledger. So that's one of the requirements. All right, now I'll come back and talk about this header table because this is a special table which you need in order to be able to do what I'm trying to show you how to do here. So Power BI is a fantastic tool for aggregating data. And so I've got a table here, sorry, this is a matrix, and here's my general ledger. And this is my first measure. I've written my first DAX measure, this one here, which is raw amount. This is one of the simplest DAX formulas you can write. It just says, add up all the numbers in the amount column.
Can you just define what a measure is?
Yeah, so a measure, okay, so thanks, Danielle. So let me come back one step. This amount column, if I come over to the general ledger, here's this amount column. This amount column, if you're thinking in Excel, it's just a column of all of the numbers, right? Now, if I want to find the total, then I need to total up the amount column. And in fact, I can just grab that column and drag it in. And when I do that, I get a total, 239 million in this case. This is just the total of all the numbers in that column. Now, what a measure is, when I drag a column in Power BI, this amount column, Power BI automatically adds the numbers up for me. That's the default behavior that happens. When you drag a column into a visual, Power BI will automatically add up those numbers. And that works for very basic requirements. If you just want to add up the column, that's all you need to do. But if you want to do something more complex than that, then you really need to write a measure. And a measure is just, it's like an Excel formula. It's just a formula that sits inside your table. And this formula is a set of instructions that says, go to the general ledger amount column and add up all the numbers and call it raw amount. And so that's basically what I've done. I've just written a formula, and that formula can be used anywhere within my model. Okay, so for now, I've just put it into this table, and there's the raw total, 239 million. But of course, if I'm building my chart of accounts, if I'm building my P&L, I will want to have a look at that sliced by my account type. So I've got a column here in my accounts called header assignment. And so basically what this does is it rolls up each of those totals to a subtotal level. So cost of sales, revenue, operating expenses, these types of things that you would want to do the reporting on. And so this is the first step. Now, of course, there's a whole lot of issues here. The order's incorrect. I'm pretty sure this number's wrong, like 239 million, because cost of sales is a positive number, 41 million, and revenue is a positive number, 140 million. And now this total has added those two numbers together. Well, that's not right. I mean, we should be subtracting the cost of sales from the revenue, right? So, and this is where just the natural adding up the numbers in a column stops working in Power BI. If this was Excel, you'd write hard-coded formulas that say, take this number, subtract this number, subtract this number, and so on. But you can't do that in Power BI. Okay, so that's the first starting position. So now we've got our raw numbers, and I've brought my header assignment in. And this header is currently coming from the chart of accounts, all right? So that's the summary rolled up level. So every single account rolls up into a header assignment. Every account number belongs to one of these 5 options. But these subtotals actually, while these subtotals, they sort of look correct, it's actually hard to say whether they are correct or not. And also, as I mentioned before, all of these numbers are positive numbers, and you certainly can't add them up to get to this total. And there's another issue here, and that is the order that we want to see these headers is not in the correct order. There's a logical flow. Now, by default, Power BI will sort every column alphabetical. So that's why we're seeing C first and T last. It's just an alphabetical sort. So this is one of the reasons why I have brought in this header table. So the header table basically contains the structure that I need to see in my P&L. So it starts with revenue, comes down, and then in a logical order. And importantly, I've got this sort column here. So this sort column allows me to display these header totals in the correct order in my visual. So I'm going to remove the header assignment from here, which comes from my chart. And instead, I'm going to use the header column from my header table. And you can see now that this header column is sorted in the correct order. And I did that by clicking on the header, and I'm changing the natural sorting behavior so that it now sorts based on that header sort column. So now one of the problems has been fixed, where my headers, or those summary levels, are now correctly appearing in the way that that I expect to see them. So I'm going to jump to a next tab. So we've now sorted based on these numbers here, using this header sort as the override. But of course, this number here, 239, is still incorrect, because this raw measure that I wrote in the general ledger, this raw amount, is just adding up the numbers. And the expenses are positive numbers and the revenue are positive numbers. And so if I add them all up, it's going to make them additive, and that's not what we need. So, so we need to change the way the DAX formula works so that it subtracts the costs and it adds the revenue to come up with the correct subtotals. Now we're starting to get into a little bit more difficult or more involved DAX. So here I've got another DAX. So I've still got my raw number. This is the number that adds up. But now I've got a second DAX formula here, which I'm going to explain as best I can. I can't give you an in-depth technical explanation of the way it works, but let me just zoom that in a little bit. And so this function SUMX, it behaves in a similar way to the way sum behaves. If you, obviously most of you would have an Excel background, the best way to think of it, it's a bit like a sum product. The closest match I could give you is sum product. Now, the way this particular formula works is it takes the account sign. So see this sign here, this sign is sitting in my accounts table. And so the returns and adjustments, so account 53, should be negative. Whereas the revenue, trade sales revenue, should be positive. And basically the accounts table has this sign column that tells me for this particular GL item, should I treat it as a positive number or a negative number when I try to do the calculation? And so you need this column in your chart of accounts in order to be able to build this solution. And so what this formula does is it says, first of all, give me all the negatives, give me all of the charts that are negative, and then take the raw amount and multiply it by -1. So basically that flips the sign of all the negative items. And then it says, then go away and give me all the numbers that are positive and add up the total amount and times it by +1. And so what this formula does is it literally flips the sign during the calculation. And you can see the net result here is that now this new measure, in actual fact, notice now that these two numbers are different. So that's interesting. But the cost of sales, it's exactly the same number, but I've just flipped the sign using that formula. Same with operating expenses. So
Matt, we've just got a question from Lance about how the header table was created. Was that done inside Power BI or imported from somewhere else?
It's imported from Excel. You can create tables like that inside Power BI, but I would recommend that you create an Excel workbook, call it master data, and then build your header table there. You can see it's a very simple table, so it's not complex. I would build it in Excel because this becomes part of your master structure of your workbook. And if you make a mistake in here or you need to insert a row, you need a way to go back and easily insert and modify this. So I would recommend that you do it in Excel.
Thanks.
All right, so we flipped the signs. Now it's a bit hard. I mean, it's pretty easy to see here what's going on, right? So the operating expense, the number's identical, but the numbers have been flipped. But why is this number different? And so to understand that, what we need to do now is get into the subheaders. And so I'm going to bring a subheader, another column, into this table. And if we have a look at this now, you can now see what's going on. So we've got the raw amounts for revenue included sales plus returns plus discounts. Now, once again, returns and discounts are negative. They should be treated as negative, whereas the gross sales should be treated as positive. And that's what this sign column does. So if we've got discounts, you can see that discounts, even discounts have got a -1. And so that flips the sign. Okay, so let's jump over to the next tab and we'll have a look. So now we've got our header, so revenue, and then our subheader, discounts, gross sales, and returns. But once again, the flow of these subheaders is not correct. I don't want to see discounts first. I want to see gross sales first, followed by maybe returns, followed by discounts. And so I have another sort column in my accounts table. So I'll just quickly show you that. If I come over here, I have, here's my subheader, so gross sales, returns, and discounts. and I have a subheader sort column. Sorry, it's this one. Yeah, it's this one here. The subheader sort column controls the flow in which they appear on the screen. And so what I need to do is I come here, I click on my subheader, and I change the sort behavior so that it sorts based on that column that I've added. And so as I build this out, you can see that not only do you need your account and account name, you need to know what subheader and what header it belongs to, and you need sort columns for all of these tables because you need to control the way they flow on the screen, and that's the way you do it. And perhaps back to the question that Lance made, it means that this may be created in Excel. So maybe your chart of accounts doesn't, typically it wouldn't have this information. So I would actually take an extract of the chart of accounts, and in Excel, I would actually add the sign column and the subheader columns and the sort details. All of this sort of stuff needs to be maintained somewhere, not in Power BI, but in Excel in a way that, because this forms part of the end-to-end P&L solution. All right, so now we've got, we're starting to get something closer to what we want here. So now we've got an expandable header, subheader, and we can drill up and down as need be. And now we've got this total 28 million. That is actually the correct number for this particular P&L. All right, now, as I said, I'm not an accountant, but I've met a few accountants, and I can tell you that most accountants don't like seeing negative numbers next to cost of sales. So they want to see cost of sales as a positive number, yet they want the numbers to add up as if they were negative. So accountants are a tricky bunch. They have, they're highly, very demanding. And so what we need is we need the best of both worlds here. So when we display the report, I want to see these numbers. I want to see that number positive when it's being displayed in the P&L. But when I'm using it to create the total, it's got to be treated as negative. So now what we need to do is we need to take the best of both worlds. We need the positive numbers for display purposes, but the negative numbers for additive purposes. And so that's the next stage in this process. So I'll switch to this view. And now you'll see that we've got another column here called report sign. And so this is the column that I use to flip the sign for additive purposes. This column I'm using to determine should it be positive or negative for reporting purposes. So it's two separate columns with two separate purposes. And so let's have a look at this. So I've actually got a new measure called display value, which I'll put in. And let me collapse this because it'll be a bit easier to see. And now you can see that I've got best of both worlds. So notice that these numbers here are all positive. So cost of sales is giving me positive 41 million. But that's interesting. The total's not right. To be honest, I don't remember if I fixed that. I'm assuming I did. So so we'll have to come back and have a look at the moment. So at this stage, in this part of the visual, the display values are correct. The total is still not correct. I'm assuming I'll fix that in a minute, but we'll see. Okay, so when I click now on, let's have a look at revenue. So I'm still getting these negative numbers here, but when I go under cost of sales, these numbers are positive. Yet, you know, obviously the total now is not correct, but at least I'm getting this display value the way I need it to work. So now I've got all the pieces of the puzzle. I'm hoping my next stage, here it is, amount with the totals add up. So the next problem is I need to make this grand total thing. So this is my display value. This is the one that I just showed you. And here's my total where here's my measure where the totals add up. And so what I need to do is I need to keep all of these numbers, but I need to keep this number, not this one. Okay, because at the grand total level, it's not working. It's working at the header, subheader level, but it's not working at the grand total level. And so I'm not sure I actually showed you that display value. So I should go back and just do that before moving on. I got thrown by the fact that my total didn't add up. But so this is basically the same measure as I wrote before, very similar to the amounts add up. So it's a little bit more complex. I don't really have time to go into any depth. But what this formula does is it basically it has two steps. The first step is it groups all of the positive report signs together, adds up the amount and times it by +1. And then it groups all of the negative report numbers together and then adds up the total amount and flips the sign, and then it presents them in the visual. So you just have to take my word that that's what this particular formula does. But it doesn't work at the grand total level. And so now we need what I'm calling my magic additive DAX measure. So let me pull that in here. And now you can see I'm keeping these numbers positive. Cost of sales, still positive. Revenue, it's keeping the negatives. But when we get to the grand total, I'm getting the 28 from this one instead of the 225 from that one. So the DAX is now starting to build in complexity. But literally, when I built this P&L the other day, this is the way I built it. I just solved one piece of the puzzle at a time, and then thought, okay, how do I keep these numbers except for the total when I need this number? So let's have a look at this one here. This is more complex again. So here is my measure. And so you can see that it's now starting to get quite a large DAX formula. This particular DAX formula uses variables, and variables are very useful when you're trying to write more complex formulas like this one here. And let me just bring this down a little bit so that we can sort of see the entire thing at the same time. Now, one of the reasons I like writing variables or using variables is that you can actually check each piece of the formula before you progress to the next piece of the formula. And in fact, you can go back and have a look at what each piece of the formula does. And so what I'm doing here is I'm defining a variable that says the variable is called is the subheader filtered? And that's going to return true or false. So I'll show you what that does. So I'm going to return my variable is subheader filtered, and let's have a look at what this does. So we're just looking at the first line now, and you can see that this this portion of the formula is returning false. And if I expand to one of the subheaders, it's returning true. So what this first part of my DAX formula does is it tells me, basically, can I see the subheader? It returns true if I can see the subheader, and it returns false if I can't see the subheader. So that's the first part of the puzzle. The second thing I want to know is there a filter on the header? And so let's see what that one does. So when I check this second piece, this one returns true here and false here. And this is the trick that I'm going to use. So now if I expand this one, you can see I'm getting trues all the way down, and I'm getting false here. And this third one basically looks at both of those. And so if I have a look at this third one, now this third one basically says, if I'm at this third piece basically says, if I'm at the grand total line, give me false. If I'm at any other line, give me true. And that is a switch that I can use to determine which number I'm going to display. And so therefore, that's what my last measure, my last variable does, is it says, if I'm at a level in this matrix that returns true, I want to see the display value. But if I'm at the grand total level, then give me the total that adds up. And so basically, I'm just using this DAX formula to determine which number do I display. Is it the one that I use for display purposes, or is it the one I use for additive purposes?
We've just got a question from Dale, whether it's possible to refer to an earlier variable within a later variable.
Yes, it is. Variables have local scope, so you can't refer to variables in one measure from a different measure. But if I, and in fact, I've effectively done that here, right? So this is a variable, is subheaded filtered is a variable here, and I'm referring to it inside another variable here. So yes, you can refer to earlier variables, but I can't refer to a variable in a different measure. So they're local in scope. Okay, so now I've got my magic additive total. You can see how I built the solution using these two, but now that I've got my magic additive total, I don't need these anymore. I can remove these other two. And I'm getting very close now to the solution that I need. And so now when I expand my table like this, everything is basically adding up the way I want it and starting to come together. All right, now the next problem that we've got is these subtotals, if you like, or these numbers that you're seeing here for every row in the matrix are only the additive amounts from my general ledger. So this is my header table, and this is the other reason that I've got this header table here. So revenue is additive data in my general ledger. Cost of sales is additive data in my general ledger, but there is no concept of gross margin in the general ledger. Okay, to get gross margin, I have to add up the revenue and subtract the cost of sales. That will give me gross margin, but I can't do that in my chart of accounts because there's no way of doing that. And this is what we use the header table for. Now, by default, what a matrix will do is it will hide any row that doesn't have a total. So that happens automatically. I can change that behavior and I can say, show me rows that don't have any data. So if I turn this on, now you can see all of the subtotals in my header table, and you can see that the revenue has data in my general ledger. That's why I'm getting the numbers here. But there's no such number for net sales because net sales is not a concept that's actually stored in my general ledger transactional data. And you can see here that I have this different calc type calculation here. And so what I'm going to do now, because typically, let's take gross margin. I think that's a good example. Gross margin is the addition of net revenue and cost of sales, or net revenue minus cost of sales. And operating profit is net revenue minus cost of sales minus operating expenses. And so this is why the chart of accounts is so important, because these subtotals, the one with a calculation type 2, are sort of like a running total down the page. And so let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to remove these two, and I'll just bring my running total, which is this one here. And in fact, I'll get rid of display value as well. And so now you can see the running total displaying down the page. So for net sales, that's a running total just of the item above. But for gross margin, that's the running total of these two items using the magic additive formula that flips the sign. Okay, so operating profit here is a running total of these three items, and so on all the way down the page. And so this running total is the next formula that we need to talk about. And once again, it's a little bit more complex than your average DAX formula. I understand that. But basically what this formula does is it works out which level are you item 1, are you item 2, are you item 3? And once it knows which level it is, it basically says, give me everything up until now. So I'll get rid of the, so basically says gross margin is number 4. So it says, give me a total of everything, including 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when we get to this row here, it says net income is header number 9. So give me the total of everything, including 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's literally a running total based on this header sort column. And that's the DAX there. So it's a little bit more advanced, but you know, once again, that's why it's available on this video. You can go back and have a look at it and see how it works. And so now the difference here is that you can see that whenever I have this item here, so net sales, it returns blank when I just add up the numbers in my GL, but it does give me a number when I write a running total. And so you can see that these numbers here are actually the answers that I need for things like net income, operating profit, gross margin, and net sales. So what I need to do is when I'm at a GL level, I need to return this one. And when I'm at a subtotal like net sales, gross margin, I need to return this last one, this running total. So that's the next problem that I have to solve. And so I've got another measure here called correct display amount. And you can see that it does exactly that. And so if I'm at a net sales, it gives me the running total. And if I'm at a GL item, it gives me that item. And so if I remove these two, you can see that I now get something that more closely resembles a P&L. So I've got my revenue, I can expand my revenue, I can see what makes up my revenue, and the subtotal is the net sales. If I go to my cost of sales, I can see what makes up my cost of sales. And when I get down to my gross margin, it's the correct number, which is 127 minus 41. So it's all sort of working, but there's another problem here. These problems cover themselves. And that is, if I expand all of these, you'll notice that I get, so under net sales, I still get to see gross sales returns and discounts. I really don't want to see these items here under net sales, because net sales is a subtotal. It just should be a single number. I want to see the detail under revenue. I don't want to see this detail here. So I do want to see the detail here, but I don't want to see this detail here. So I need a way of hiding the detail at the subtotal level while still displaying the detail that I want to keep at the subheader level. And pretty much that's the last step to this problem. And so back to the header table, stored in the header table, I've got this column that tells me, should I show the detail or not? And so the revenue, yes, I want to see the detail. Net sales, no, I don't want to see the detail. Other income and expense, I do want to see the detail. Taxes, I don't want to see the detail. So this gives you a choice of what gets shown and what doesn't get shown. So this is called total amount. So this is my final measure. And so now you can see that underneath net sales, my previous measure showed me the numbers, but my new one hides them in the case that my detail flag says 0. This is probably the most complex formula of all of them. As you can see, I'm building in complexity, necessarily so, because I need to tell Power BI to selectively switch between the different formulas that I've written in order to be able to do this. But basically what it does is it checks to see what type of calculation are you? Am I supposed to show the detail? And based on those rules, it decides which number does it show. Does it show a blank, or does it give you the magic additive running total, or does it give a running total? It's basically there, the 3 choices. And so once I've got that, and if I remove my previous measure, you'll see that we end up with this here, which basically is my my P&L. I'll just collapse this and show you what's going on. So at the top header level, I can see my revenue. This net sales is a subtotal. So if I expand my revenue, I can see what makes up that revenue. But if I try to expand the net sales, there's nothing to show because it's just a subtotal. Here's my cost of sales. But when I get to my gross margin, it's just a subtotal. And if I expand everything, then it's pretty much a P&L. Now,
sorry, Matt, that might be a good point to ask.
Well, I'm pretty much done now anyway, so so that's fine. So we're sort of right on 45 minutes, which is perfect. So that gives us sort of 15 minutes to talk about any questions, and yeah, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, just with that, what you were doing with now that you've finished it, well, you can't actually drill through though into individual GLs to see the transaction details under that.
Yeah, I think well, I haven't tried it, but I'm assuming I can. So if I bring the account key here, let's see what happens. You might have to modify the DAX. It really depends. But here's account key 52, and so I've actually taken that from the general ledger.
So you can, so you can drill down.
But if I could bring the account in as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if I click under here, the intercompany sales and trade sales and so on. Now, you might choose that you want to hide some of this. To be honest, I don't know what's going to happen under gross margin. Yeah, gross margin still works. So yeah, I can bring in the account as well. So as many different subheaders as you want, basically. If the data's there, yes, you can drill into it.
Yeah. So a few other questions. Jonathan says, will you be sharing a copy of the file? No, we are just going to be sharing the video. You can watch it again, and the slides that we saw
and
earlier.
just for Jonathan, just for everyone's benefit, I mean, you know, there's a lot of work obviously that goes into these things. I'm happy to share the techniques, and you know, the formulas are not secret. You know, I'm happy to share them. I mean, I learned
you can totally
from somebody
recreate.
else. Yeah, but absolutely, just recreate it. So
and you'll learn from doing that.
Yeah, that's right. You'll learn. You won't learn by copying me. You'll learn by following the instructions and the principles. This is why I said it's all about how I created it. The formulas are almost irrelevant. It's what is the process to do it. And so if you follow the process by watching the video with your own data, you'll work out how to do it. I see there's also one here from Paul, 4 o'clock in the morning, Paul.
Yeah, him.
So asking about, you know, how can we extract from systems? I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's system environment is going to be different. And so what I would typically do, if you have your chart of accounts, say in QuickBooks, for example, I would be extracting, I would use Power Query to load that chart of accounts. It's typically going to have account codes. I would then use Excel and I would map all the account codes, and then you need to add, what is the report sign going to be? What is the calculation sign going to be? Do I want to see the detail? You need to manually add all of these columns into Excel and then join them in Power Query and load the resulting chart of it, the enhanced chart of accounts, right? So just to clarify, what I'm saying is that these columns here would not be in QuickBooks, right? These columns here would not be in QuickBooks. So you'd need to merge your major chart of accounts from your financial system with an Excel spreadsheet containing the account keys and join them in Power Query, and then extract the table like this. And from there, then you can build your P&L.
Yep. Jason wants to know, is a three-way model, balance sheet, P&L, and cash flow possible in Power BI? Absolutely.
Okay, I'm not an accountant, but if Danielle says it is, then I'm sure it is. So
and I guess, yeah, that brings me to the question of why would you? When you could just do it in Excel, it's going to be a lot easier to do it in Excel. And that was my question I wanted to ask you, Matt. What is the advantage of doing it like this than just staying in Excel?
Well, I mean, in Excel, you've got two choices, right? You can do it in traditional Excel, or you can do it in Power Pivot for Excel. I mean, personally, to me, this is a repeatable, extensible model. So once you build it once,
exactly,
you can just hit refresh, connecting to your data sources, and that's it. I mean, I don't know how, you know, one thing I know about accountants is that they like 5 days at the start of the month before they give you the numbers, because there's so, well, I'm assuming because there's so much manual stuff to be done. But if you set
it up like this,
yeah, it should be.
I know it seems complicated, but once you've got it set up, you can just run it over and over again.
Yeah. And so let me, I just want to quickly show you, I've just published this online.
Yeah.
And this is, you know, Excel people normally love this, but what did I call it? My P&L here. Once I've got it at powerbi.com, I can come here and there's this button, Analyze in Excel. And so when I click that button, so I've published my model online. Now I click Analyze in Excel and I click on this little download file. It will launch Excel on my computer. Now remember, the file is online at powerbi.com, but now I've got an Excel workbook on my PC. And here it is. This is the model that I just built, all right? So here is my total amount. If I collapse all of the, it's up here, I'm not used to using Excel anymore. But if I come here to my header, I can bring the header. If I go to my accounts, I can bring the subheader. And I could go to the calendar and I can bring the year. I'm a little bit risky doing financial year or calendar year. And so here it is. I mean, it's a bit strange that the formatting, if I got the right, was that the right measure, total amount? I'm expecting that the formatting should work. So something's a little bit weird there. But this is it. This is the P&L live in Excel. And if I save this, what's really cool about this Excel workbook, I'll just call it the ubiquitous book1.xls. And if I save that and jump to my, here it is, book one, and have a look at the size of this workbook. This workbook is 17 kilobytes. There is no data in this workbook. The data is at powerbi.com, and you can set it and configure it to automatically refresh each month. And then you can distribute these Excel workbooks, and people have live interactive Excel-based access to the raw data. And so it's a killer feature. Okay, other questions?
Fantastic. Actually, we might move over to Susan. She's got a couple of, she's managing the live stream on
Hey, Susan, you're real.
Hi, guys. I am real. Thanks.
She's been doing all the hard work in the background for us. Just a few questions on there.
I know. I've been answering a couple of questions. There was one on a question before about the Q&A will also be on YouTube. I'm not sure if we'll be answering Q&A questions after the webinar, Danielle. You might be able to answer that one better.
No. No. I mean, if there's something on the, we'll save the chat and Matt can get back to you directly, or if you email us, we can probably.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm generally happy to answer quick questions. I mean, as you can perhaps appreciate, I mean, I share most of what I do freely in the world, but I also have a job. I have to make a living, so there's only so much free help I can give people. So please just take that into account. If it's a quick question, I'm happy to help out. If you want commercial help, then of course let me know, and I'm always happy to do that. Happy to share for free, but there's only so much I can do.
So what were those? A couple of questions on YouTube, Susan?
There are. So if a new GL account key is created and comes into your data set, but you don't include it in your account definition table, will it be excluded from the P&L?
Okay, can you just clarify, Susan, is the new GL account in the GL table or the chart of accounts?
It says
it's in the data set.
Okay, so
in the GL, I suppose.
Thank you.
So this raises another very important point, and that is maintenance. So in a perfect world, someone will set up the chart of accounts with the new account number. That will get done in advance, and then when the transaction comes into the GL with that same account number, it will all work. But the reality is it doesn't work that way. Everyone knows that. And so particularly if you've got this Excel spreadsheet where you're manually adding the signs and stuff. And so, so what will happen is, as if the GL transaction comes in with a new code and it's not in the chart of accounts, you'll get a blank record in your P&L. So that will be your warning sign that there's a problem. I also generally recommend that you write audit measures. So you can write a measure that says, tell me how many GL account codes do I have in my GL table that don't have a matching sign in the header table or the accounts table. You can write these little audit measures and you can put them as tiles on your report. And then when you refresh your report, and in fact, you can load it into powerbi.com and get it to email you when the number changes from 0 to 1.
Cool.
So there are definitely techniques to do this, but it can and will go wrong, and you need to set up automatic processes to
exactly. Always.
Yeah.
Great. Was there another question, Susan?
There was one more. What does the drill through cross report feature do?
Oh, good question. All right. So when you publish at powerbi.com, you basically are publishing into a workspace, which is a dedicated space where you can have one or more reports. And I'm currently in my workspace, and you can see here in the reports section, I have, I don't know, 6 or 8 different reports here. Now the drill through filter, let me give you a quick demo of drill through. So let's say I'm going to create a new GL detail. So I'm going to quickly throw into a table with the account key, the date key, and the amount of the transaction. All right, so this will be my, my detail, and I'm going to turn this into a drill through report. And so that's not what I want to do. I think about it, I want this here. So now what I'm saying is that anytime I drill through on the account key, I want to come to this page. So now what I can do, I'm going to come back here. I'm just showing you what a drill through report is. So underneath this header, so there I need my account key. So I can drill down even further, and I get to account key 52, 2006, and I say, wow, what's that? What's that $1.9 million transactions against this account key? So as long as I have my drill through report set up, I can right click and say drill through. I should have called it something better than page 1. I should have called it my GL detail report. Drill through to my GL detail report. And now I can go into the underlying transactions and see exactly what's going on. And when I'm finished, I just click the back button and it takes me back to my report. So then I go discounts, 54. Oh, what's this? Right click, drill through to my GL detail report. Here it is. Here's a list of my transactions. And so that's what a drill through report is. But this drill through report is a single report. The question that Susan raised that somebody asked is, what is a cross report drill through report? Basically, what it allows you to do is it allows you to jump between different reports using that same drill through behavior. So, you know, I can't think of a use case, but you might have a department that tells you which department incurred the expense, and you might want to drill through to another report that gives you the HR listing of all the members in the department.
Yeah, for your departmental management reporting, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's lots of situations where you use
exactly.
that.
Yeah. So that's what it is. Tricky questions.
Yeah. We just one last question. We've had a couple of people ask, and I want to know as well, what is the groovy little drawing tool that you're using?
Oh, no, that's $10. I'll give you a Patreon page, and if you donate $10, I'll tell you what it is. No,
okay.
seriously, it's called Faststone. I love it, and I seriously, that is the most common. It's sad, isn't it? It's the most common question I get at the end of my presentation.
Really? Yeah. That's the most common question you get?
Actually, no, it's not Faststone Capture. That's the other one that I use. It's called Zoom It. Zoom It. Okay, that's it. And it was actually built by, I think someone at Microsoft built it. It's freely available, and yeah, you can do a few cool things. You know, it's just keyboard shortcuts once you get used to them. So you can draw boxes.
I use that for zooming, but I haven't tried the drawing, but that's cool.
Yeah, so Control-2 to go into draw mode, and yeah, and you can zoom in. I don't know if it'll zoom in with using these live streaming. Is that zooming in?
No.
Yeah, I think it doesn't work for some reason using
when you're presenting.
It might be a demarcation issue, but yeah, that's the tool. It's called Zoom It, one word.
Oh, cool. So we've got just a couple minutes left. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the online training you've got coming up, Matt?
Thank you very much. So look, wow, it's a horrible world we live in now, and I used to, most of my work used to be face-to-face training on the East Coast, but the great news is that all of my training is now online. It's all online now, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. In fact, Patrick, who got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to attend this session, he's attending my UK training course next week, Monday, Tuesday, my advanced DAX training course. So I've got 3 different courses. These are Australian dollars. So that
involve a lot of middle of the night sessions for you?
No. Well, it does for me, not for the participants. So with the UK one, the advanced DAX I'm doing next week, I'm doing it sort of 5 to 8 p.m. Sydney time, which is 8 till whatever, 11:30 in the UK. So 3 different courses. If you'd like to find out more, I mean, this is just take you through to the details. If you'd like to find out more about them, love to have you along. If you learn DAX and Power BI, if you learn it properly, it'll serve you well for many, many years. So I'd love to have people come along. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Fantastic. I will send out, actually after this session finishes, you will be directed to a feedback page. So I'd like to know what you thought about it, and if you have any suggestions for improvements. I'm sure there are none, but just in terms of how we actually run these sessions. So thank you so much, Matt. That was fantastic.
No worries. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. We've got another session coming up next week, although it's going to be at 5 p.m. because it's with another MVP, David Bename, and he is going to be talking about collaboration between, so using Excel Online and Google collaboration tools. So yeah, that one's at 5 p.m. Sydney time next Wednesday. So I will send out an email. Make sure that you are subscribed. Some people have not received the emails because they were not subscribed. So just make sure that you can get emails from us, and you'll get a copy of the recording and these slides that Matt has made available to us. So thank you so much, Matt, and I will see everybody else next week.
Okay, bye everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Good morning. So how do, is this still streaming or